You're very welcome to Space to Grow, brought to you by Sonus, Ireland's leading bathroom brand. Now, in this podcast, we explore how the spaces we inhabit shape us as individuals. I'm Lisa Cannon.
And I'm Natasha Rocca Devine.
Well, in this episode of the Entertainment Series, we are thrilled to have Irish comedian and actor Deirdre O'Kane joining us here in the Devlin to share her experiences with the spaces she's inhabited throughout her life and career. From Live at the Apollo to her IFTA winning performance in Noble to her very own show on Sky, Deirdre has a space on many a stage.
So let's kick it off with Deirdre herself.
Hello,
Hola.
Deirdre. Welcome. We're excited to be on the podcast with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Delira. Well, listen, we've so much to get through today, but we want to talk about kind of going back a little bit in time to your childhood, because you are, there was 5 siblings, your father's from the UK, and of course your mother from Derry. So what was it like growing up? And were you the funny kid of the siblings?
I don't think I was the standout funny kid. Our house was chaotic. And anyone who comes from a biggish family knows there's a lot of noise. Yeah. You have to fight to be heard. You have to fight for your space. But I do think that's probably, where the comedy. My mother was funny. She was definitely funny, loud. She would say, fight for your space, because
really?
at the table, at the dinner table when you were trying to get heard, she would say, fight for your space. Yeah, she would. And also I remember her saying to me, if you were up the town or anything, she'd say, any crack, any news from the town? And if you said no, life wouldn't be worth living. I remember her saying to me, make it up, love, make it up. And her what she meant was, you've got to entertain people. You come up with something. You can't be having a dud answer or a no answer. So I've been making it up ever since.
So when did you discover you wanted to be an actor? Was it at that young age with your mom, or later on?
School. Yeah. School was where it all happened for me. School plays. That's when I came alive. Yeah, I came alive doing shows, and that was all I wanted to do. The drama teacher, the shows we put on from primary, and that carried into secondary school. And I was very lucky. I had very good drama teachers at school, and there was a lot of music in my school. So it was good for arty kids, which is unusual.
Yeah,
it's unusual now. I think that's really been devalued. But for me, I was lucky, and yeah, because I was just good at it and I loved it. And that was enough. I went towards it. I don't know if I understood anything really about what it meant to be an actor. I don't think I did. I think I liked the shows. I was good at it, and I went towards it really blissfully ignorant. There was nobody in my background. There was lots of amateur actors in my background, but there were no professionals. So
are you the only actor in your family then, as such?
Yes.
Wow. So is it that breadth of the live audience that excites you? We're going to talk about the IFTAs and everything as well, but that sense of being on stage, is that what tickled your toes?
Do you know what? It's just showing off. It really is. It's just, would you look at me? Look
at you
how
now.
much light could you put on me?
Do you love a spotlight? Do you
I do love a spotlight. I must, because you wouldn't go out on your own. You wouldn't become a transition from being an actor into becoming a stand-up comic, which is very much on your own in the light. Now, that's a bit of a wake-up call, but
and can
persevere in that.
Could you come up with material on the spot? Obviously, particularly live, you can show someone might say a comment. Can you change it up on the stage, in the moment?
I can talk to people. I can engage with the audience and with hecklers and be funny. But it's not going to be as good as the written stuff. But sometimes if you're very quick off the cuff, they can be the biggest laughs of the night, because the audience know. They know you're on your toes. They know.
Jeez, I'd be terrified. God, I'd be terrified. Because there is that moment where you could be on stage and it falls a bit.
Yeah, well, look, of course, and it takes a long time. It takes a long time to get good. It took me 2 years for the horror, the real fear to subside, as in feeling sick all day, maybe having a headache. It was awful. It was really absolutely awful, and I certainly wouldn't go through it again.
Well, I mean, you've got the three strands because you've got obviously acting, you've the comedy, and then of course you're a presenter as well. And everybody has seen you, of course, with your monologues and the IFTAs. I mean, fair play. That's a tough crowd. But I think we were saying just before we rolled out, you're about 6 times you've been presenting the IFTAs, and of course everybody knows whether it's the Oscars or it's of course the Globes, but especially with the IFTAs, we have a big monologue, and you of course are showcasing it to all the big actors. So how are you feeling before you do it? And do you write it yourself?
I'm awfully proud of those monologues. I don't write it alone.
They
I
are
have
amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I tell you, it's weeks of work. It is really
Is it
weeks
really?
and weeks of work.
Tell us more.
I think we start preparing about 2 months beforehand, about 8 weeks, in advance, because you're writing for a very specific audience, and you want to write all the jokes that are happening in the industry. So you're writing right up until the minute, because there's always a last minute thing. I mean, this year it was the Late Late Show who was going to host it, so that was kind of a huge talking point in the country. So that was going to feature. But yeah, so I have a writer's room, usually 4 people. Diarmuid O'Brien is somebody who's worked on all of them. He's the chief writer. And then this year we had new people. I had Peter McGann and Stephen Mullen, who are 2 younger comics. And they were brilliant. And we laugh a lot in that room. And I throw out an awful lot of material. I think that's why you have to write for so long, And also, I'm glad you mentioned the Globes and the Oscars and the BAFTAs, because that's the bar, it doesn't matter if your budget is less or your audience is less. There's a bar that you're expected to reach, and I think we do reach it. And
absolutely, well, you do.
Well,
doesn't she though?
Yeah, you do.
Natasha, we've been speaking as well, like when you walk out on stage, you wore this beautiful black dress, beautiful mini skirt with a big bustle. When I saw it, I was like, wow. It's also about what you're wearing and how you command the stage. I mean, you have to be the focal point that everybody looks to, especially when you got to be funny
are
as
in
well.
charge of the night.
Yes.
You are moving the pace along, moving the energy along, making sure there isn't a dip anywhere, covering up any mistakes that anybody makes, all of that. And listen, that's easy to do if you know how to do it, and you've been doing it a long time and you're trained. I've got comics are, usually the hosting of those award shows is in the hands of a comic for a reason, so that when things go wrong, you can fill in 5 minutes. I can fill in 5 minutes with jokes, and I can make light of something
that goes wrong.
That
things go wrong.
Whether it's technical
if we stop talking, just fill in the
I'll fill it. I can talk. That's
absolutely.
the one.
Be amazing. So with comedy, obviously there's like nasty comedy, and how do you feel about that? Like, I know a lot of people, there's different types of comedians, say like Ricky Gervais. What do you feel about that? Like, do you think there should be limits to comedy, or do you think it should feel like any type?
I don't think there should be limits. I think the only limits I approve of are racism, homophobia, lines like that are, I don't have a tolerance for that. But other than that, and I suppose the industry was, drowning in that at a certain point. So in some ways, there are casualties in every war, and in some ways this new movement, has restricted some people, but sometimes the bigger picture, it's necessary for the bigger picture. But it's a hard one, because this is the one area of art that shouldn't be limited at all, because it's live in the room. That's what it's unique for. And it's one person's mind. And if you don't like that comic, then you don't support that comic, and you don't buy a ticket to go to see that person.
Yeah.
There's always going to be acts who are sensationalist and will do that
for reactions.
For a reaction. And there's an audience for that. Generally speaking, I think it's a small audience. I don't think it's a huge audience. So let them at it. Let them at it over there. There have been over the years people who've been sort of racist and homophobic, but that was much more acceptable then, and it's not anymore.
Absolutely. When we talk about acceptable when it comes to comedy, I love Billy Connolly, right? So you've got Billy, who kind of was a force of nature back in the 70s when he first appeared in Parkinson, and of course he was saying jokes that were lewd and rude on national television, but gained that momentum. But now it feels if you say anything, and it's tricky. Like Jennifer Aniston has come out only last week and said, I don't get the cancel culture. Is there not a sense of forgiveness? Do you feel that way, about comedy?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, the cancel culture is, but mostly it's been for, sexual harassment and those kind of things, that's a different conversation.
Of course.
But if you're cancelling somebody on their material,
or one comment which could have been taken out of context.
No, it's too extreme.
And of course it's very personal.
It's too extreme.
We're obviously speaking about Ricky Gervais. He got a lot of hard time being here in Dublin, performing his shows. People were a bit upset, but I think he's a fantastic comic. So
but why were they upset? Did they not know what they were going to? Did they not know who he is and what he stands for? This is who he is. This is his shtick. That. It's the same with Jimmy Carr, who gets into trouble. They all get in trouble. But what you're getting, these comics.
So, have their own.
So who's offended? Who's buying that ticket? That they don't know what they're going to see.
And I think online is tricky as well because there's trolls. That's a different beast.
Well, you see, the online is a problem because people are taking material out of context.
Yeah,
so, and this is the reason they've started taking people's phones and putting them into pouches because somebody is filming a bit of a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not getting the whole thing, and then it's completely out of context. And then the next thing, comics are being accused of this, that, and the other, and it's awful.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, we have to talk about the hustle of the entertainment industry. Obviously, this is an entertainment series and we have so many great guests on. But I mean, it's a tough slog as a freelancer and also working out there in the comedy scene. I mean, your work ethic and your graft is exhaustive. It's incredible. I mean, you have a whole family behind you, of course, as well. But I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute. But how do you find the hustle? Always looking forward for the next gig.
I'll not lie. You think you're going to reach a point where you are successful and you can relax a bit.
You are successful and can relax.
Oh my God. We're shocked. To leave the room if you say
can't
that.
relax. I can't
you
relax.
Can't relax.
No, I can't.
So do you kind of have a monkey on your back all the time then? You feel,
if I'm not producing a show, if I'm not writing the next show, I'm out of work. So you couldn't, I mean, and even though I was 10 years an actor before I became a comic, that's part-time job. You're lucky if you get employed for 6 months of the year, and you might get a good year where it's 10 months of the year, but there's not a lot of work in the industry. You really do have to create it and chase it, and the hustle is real and it never ends, and I'm always selling tickets and I'm always pushing. I do kind of sit back sometimes and go, I'm actually just going to take a day off from this.
I hope
but
you
it's
do.
only a day.
What do you do on the day? What do you do?
What you mean? What's my day like? I don't have any 2 days that are the same. They're never the same.
And when you relax, I hope you do relax. Do you?
I do, of course. I've got plenty of laziness in me. Don't thanks. I appreciate the work ethic thing I do, but I mean, God Almighty, I can slack when I want to. I can do as little as I'm let.
But you're also you were on Sky, the Olympia, and RT, and you had teenage kids, children, Holly and Daniel, and I have a 2-year-old, and I struggle. I have 2 dogs, so I say I have the 3 musketeers, the 3 of them combined. But I find it, it's challenging being a working mom.
You're in the hardest part, Natasha. 2 is you can't even take your eyes off them for a second because they can run into.
Climbing and drawing on the walls and everything. But at the same time, how did you find the balance? Do you just have that natural ability to kind of shuffle gears? Because I find that's the hardest part.
No woman has the natural ability to shuffle anything. You're just juggling all the time, putting out fires, juggling. Just doing your best, and your best, that's enough. I mean, I know this is a show about interiors, and I love interiors. I love my home, but I do think there's an over emphasis on the perfect homes, and when you've got small children, you've got to let that stuff go. You can't have a constantly tidy house. And I think Instagram has put that sort of pressure on people to present this beautiful home all the time. That is not possible when you have small children, unless you want to spend every minute of the day picking up and constantly picking up and putting away. Yeah. And that's very boring. And ultimately, children do not care about a tidy home. They just care about a happy home. Yeah, they don't care about your interior design, your cream sofa, which they will ruin the first chance they get. So you do have to relax a bit on that front.
Yeah, I've learned that. Yeah, people expect my place to be absolutely perfect and
of course, and it's your
walls lately, and
but it's your profession. So you've got to. Your home has to be a showpiece. I presume that's your profession. But look, everybody's trying to be the Kardashians, and everybody's trying to be, the people who have kids, the money and the home help and the constant help, and that's not most people.
Yeah, and speaking of being Irish, because we're dead nosy, I'm going to put the interiors question over to to you, Natasha. I've done a couple of entertainment questions now, so I'll kick back because it is, of course, about interiors, and I know you love your interiors. So
yeah,
we're dying to know a bit more.
Yeah, well, during lockdown, you I heard that you did paneling, or you're doing a lot of DIY. Tell us what you got up to. I'm really curious, Deirdre.
Listen. If there's a blank wall, I will panel it.
I love panels. They're hard, though. Well done.
I
so
think
impressed.
if your home is not beautiful, and by that I mean if it's not a period house, if it's not got God-given beautiful features, right? And my house doesn't. I think the paneling can cover a lot. Yeah, it's like mirrors. When you can't afford art, buy mirrors. That was my.
Did you do it yourself? I'm a bit confused. Did
oh God,
no.
I got a man.
I was going to say no, because paneling it's a different beast for design. But the fact that you thought about that, a lot of people would kind of look at their walls and complain, or like they go to the other extreme where they're scared to do things because of Instagram. So it's great. And are you really happy with it now? Like, what would you call your style?
We know the wood is warm and the texture and the warmth, and I'm all about that. On one wall and behind the bed and all, and I look at a lot of interiors online. I became a Pinterest addict during lockdown.
So great, Pinterest.
Yeah, but I've had to stop now.
You've let it go.
I've had to stop.
What would you call your own style then at home? Like, what's your go-to
I
style?
think my house
Intrigued,
has
ears pricking up here. I'm dying to know.
When people come into my house, it's a bit Cape Coddish.
Oh, I love that. That's really
you'll get that now from the paneling, won't you?
Oh, yeah.
And I think I fell in love with it, actually, now that I think back about it. When I first went to the States when I was about 18, waitressing for the summer, and I was washing windows and cleaning windows, and all of the homes in Cape Cod, they have that, they have that, the outsides are, the clapperboard. I love them.
It's very stylish.
I love them. And I think I fell in love with it then.
I do think you have a go-to.
If I could.
Everyone has that in them. Whatever that is, you have that memory. Everyone has their kind of their passion for design or their go-to. But also I think when you're in such a busy lifestyle, a lot of people, we discussed this in your interview, you want a kind of a minimalist or like a relaxing kind of clean home, and that's what Cape Cod is. Balances your the busyness of your life. Like it makes sense.
There's a lot of nature in it. There's a lot of wood,
but that's really important.
Natural fibres, and I like.
You like all. So sorry, the colours then for Cape Cod, because I'm the one that doesn't know that much about interiors. So what would your theme colour scheme be then for that?
Well, obviously, when we got this house, we had to not rebuild it, but just knock a few walls and knock it in shape. It was a very, very old fashioned. So the only thing it had in its favour actually was a pitched roof, and because it had a pitched roof, I thought if I put wood on that, wood paneling all across the top of the wood, then this room can actually
feature,
can look good, and the height was good. So I don't know. I started it all white, obviously, and then added colour as I went, which is now shades of teal.
Oh, I love teal. Yeah, teal's gorgeous. Really
teal's good.
Wow. Oh, I'm really curious. I'd love to have a snoop. We might do this next series in your house.
I'll show you a few pics to see.
No, but because obviously, because Deirdre, we look alike today. I've obviously dressed like you, unbeknownst to myself. But I love the simplicity of kind of the blacks, whites, golds, and that element. My house is like a macaroon. I have kind of lemons and ballet pink. So
fabulous.
It's a strange combination.
Braver.
And I know I'm saying this in front of a very esteemed interior designer, but I have a grey kitchen, so it's that element.
Balance.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
That's okay. Okay, do that.
But I also, you have a really busy life. We discussed that. So it's like when you go home, you want to relax, and I think that's so important that people don't just follow Instagram trends. They follow what's like, what they like, what their go-to, what you wear at home, like what you dress in.
It also has to suit the space.
100%. Yes, exactly. The space. Also, like you say, lifestyle. If you've children, you're not going to like having like all cream couches and things like that. So it's about being real. It's function and like design, kind of balancing that.
Well, I think I'm going to jump in and just say that when my mother passed away, actually, 15 years ago, I changed the house. So it was like a cathartic thing for me in terms of, and I know the name of the show, of course, in our podcast is Space to Grow. It was a space where I could just, I suppose, be calm and be able to accept the new changes that had come into my life, which was obviously completely overwhelming and catastrophic. But at the same time, using those palettes of colours with the greys, ballet pinks, sage greens, or mint greens, or pea greens, I felt very safe when I came home. I enjoyed being back in my space. So I'm wondering, you know, do you find that sometimes when things happen in your life, you like to change your style or your design in your house? Do you kind of tinker with things like that to allow for a change?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think I've gone as far as I can go with this house. So I think it really just needs maintenance, and maybe I'd like a new sofa, you know, but really it's done. It needs a repaint constantly because there's a lot of white and the turquoise. But I don't think I'm going to go crazy. You know, I'd love a new kitchen, but you know what? It's never going to be a priority for me. I will always
The woman
spend...
right here can sort
I
you
will
out.
always spend the money on travel, but if you could come and look
Respraying
at
is
my
a really
kitchen-
great option. It's like 15%, as you know, of the kitchen, and also it's sustainable. You know, that's what I'm all for. If you have a lovely kitchen, why change it? Just change, like spray it and change it
Yeah,
the colour.
it's grand. It's a bit shoddy.
All the
looking
brands
now.
are going to be contacting you now
Yeah,
after
they'll
this.
be
the
right on
couches.
to you. Don't
Shoddy.
worry.
It's-
We'll get you a new kitchen in no time.
I need a new. I think I
Ordered.
need a new floor. I think
Okay,
it needs a floor.
look, all the brands will be putting this in the comments below.
Yeah.
Please add.
Well, Deirdre, let's go back then, of course, to your space on stage, because obviously that's primarily important. And of course, you're out this week and you've gotten loads of shows, you've many behind you, and of course, a plethora still to go. But in terms of the material on stage, you've been very brave. You've spoken about your father passed away. You know, it's very important, I suppose, for you to allow that be part of the material that you speak about. And you speak about him so funny as well. But is it difficult to bring him up on stage, or does it
No,
is it okay?
it's not difficult for me. I was very concerned when my siblings were coming to see it because
Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
I just thought, oh God, you know, are they going to be comfortable with this? You're always worried about other people. For me, it was very cathartic. It
Yeah.
was lovely to talk about him. I felt like I had him with me every night when I was
Aw.
talking about him. And then, you know, even though it's not always, I don't always talk about him in the most flattering light. He was very eccentric, and I didn't really fully appreciate that until I started writing about him either. But I do give a lot of myself.
You
I give a
do.
lot of my
You really
personal
do.
life to stand up, and I think you have to decide, I suppose, how much you want to give. I'm not really able to pull back. I don't really know how to write about anything else. I sort of mine my personal life a lot. I try to dress it up by changing names and, you know, so that I don't offend or hurt anybody. But and my children, like, I mean, I've said to them, I'm sorry now, but everybody in this house is fair game. But
The kids think of that,
well, they
the
don't
kids
like
like,
it now because they're teenagers now. So I never name them, and I try to disguise the stories as much as I can. I realize I got away with it for so long until they got to a certain point of, you can't say that, or then you get told, you know, you put a post on Instagram, take that down. So now I have to be super aware.
They're checking in.
But at the same time, I go to them, this is my living, lads. This is what's putting bread on the table. So
That's
you
who
might
are.
have
You're
to
an
suck
artist.
a bit of this up.
Yeah,
you
you're an
know?
artist. Like, all of it's art. So, and do you ever get nervous, say, in front of your peers, like Brendan Gleeson, Colin Farrell, or anyone on stage? Would you ever like get nervous, or you're happy out, like whoever you're in front of?
I don't know if nervous is the right word. I regard those people so highly, so I want to do well. If anything, I think they motivate me to do a good job. You know, so if the room is full of the creme, you don't want to be the one coming out with the, you know, weak jokes, like, or, you know, I want it to be great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the comments are great, because obviously I looked back on all the monologues and they're like, oh, I love Deirdre, she's great. I mean, there's never any negativity around you, I find. Anyway, it's always great fun, and I think everybody always champions you. But there must be sometimes, God, I feel so bad for some hosts, you know, when they're hosting something as big as the Oscars and they're slated, you know, the next day. What does that do to your self-esteem? You know, you're sitting there reading the papers.
Yeah, that's
with your
rough.
coffee.
But that's why it's incredibly high. It's incredibly important to choose the right host for those industry awards shows in particular, because you're making jokes about the people in the room and you're making jokes about the industry, right? So, as I said, number one, it should be a comic, in my opinion, and And then it just, I think sometimes I've looked at a lot of award shows and I think they underestimate the time it takes to write the monologue. I mean, I think people are very surprised when I say I've been working on it for 8 weeks in a writer's room. I have to give credit to Anya Moriarty, who runs IFTA, because they don't have a big budget. And I said to her, we have to have a writer's room. Like, if you want to meet this standard, this is the thing. You can't shortcut on a thing like that. You just won't meet. You won't meet the bar. It's as simple as that. You have to have the resources to do it properly. And that's where we fall down in Ireland so much. I don't think people pay writers particularly well. I don't think they invest in writers enough for anything. For most TV shows, even for the ad libs, even for the off the cuff stuff, I think that stuff's really important. So I give her credit because she has indulged me and my saying, can I have 3 other writers and maybe a 4th one, and can we have a room and we have this many hours? And
but change only happens when people ask. So you're making changes, which is amazing. I feel like you're such a trailblazer.
And she's been happy with it. She's had a good response to the show. So I suppose when you do the first one and you get a good response, that she goes, okay, I'm happy. This is a good show. So okay, fine, I'll pay for it again the next year.
But you're also eyeballing. I mean, I was looking back on the footage, as I said, and you're eyeballing Brendan Gleeson or Colin Farrell when you're saying, and they're roaring laughing. Of course, it cuts to them laughing. Yeah. But I mean, that's nerve-wracking too.
It is, but look, I'm very confident before I go out there that I'm very confident. I go through it. I know exactly when to remove a joke or a word that's going to offend or not land. The odd time you might have something that won't land as well as you hope it will. But overall, and with the other 3 ears, and they're all good comics, and I know the room. I know what's required. So yeah, I'm generally go out there. I'm actually dying to do it because we've been working on it for 8 weeks. I'm I need a response now. I'm bored now.
But you have so many hats, the presenting hat now. I know we're presenting today, but you've done what we've done in your sleep. And then, of course, you've obviously the comedy stage and then film. Speaking, you work with your husband, of course, and you when you're IFTA for Noble. So where is your space, Deirdre? Where do you like to be more than the other, or are they all the same babies to you?
Yeah, they're not. It depends. Different times I like different spaces, but at the moment, my stand-up is taking precedence. I'm really loving it. I think probably for the first time, I'm really loving it, and I think that's just experience. It's a really hard job, but I think the years have made me. Because I've always had a love-hate relationship with it. I stepped away from it for 8 years.
Right. Okay.
Just because it's rough. It's a rough environment. You're going into clubs to try new jokes, and it's not for the faint-hearted. That's for sure.
Definitely. And you're not going to always have, no matter how great you are and prepared, you're not going to always have a great audience. Like you say, sometimes things just don't flow on the night. Like in any job, like design, presenting. You're going to have harder gigs than others.
And the thing about writing new material is that you become a rookie again.
Yeah. Exactly.
It doesn't matter how experienced you are. You're trying out new stuff, and it won't all land. But you have a good sense of what will. But I think part of the reason I'm loving it at the moment as well is that I'm a bit older and I'm a bit more experienced. But my kids are older, so I'm not on the phone. I can hit the road, and I'm not on the phone going, "Has that child been fed?" or whatever. I can actually go with a little bit more peace of mind. So I'm very pro this getting older. It suits me.
I'm glad you've said that, because I turned 45 in the summer and I thought, oh, here we go. I've 25 years of TV experience behind me.
I've got 10 years on you, Lisa.
But it's 25 years experience of TV and all. It's kind of like, where do you go next? And, there's always the next, isn't there? And I know your daughter as well, Holly, has gone to drama school. So there's kind of a new generation coming through as well in your family. But do you still have the same graw for it? Or do you find... Have you been jaded at all with it?
Oh, I've been jaded many times over. Haven't we all?
It's
exhausting. And as I said, the hustle never ends.
And you've your show at the moment, which I'm going to...
I'm on the last leg of Demented tour. That
Love the name. That's how I feel with a toddler.
Well, that's it. That's exactly the emotion I was conjuring up. But no, I have a great love at the moment. I have a great love for it. I think I've got this new freedom and a bit. You see, those years when you're rearing kids, they're frantic. And now I've got one who's going to college and a 15-year-old. He won't starve. He knows how to make eggs. So, do you know, I'm like, okay, I think I can go on the road and actually focus on doing my job as opposed to trying to focus on doing my job and that job.
Juggling, both. Because together it's tricky. But even if you don't have kids, just like as a woman in business, and creative, it's juggling and all. It's a grafting kind of job, what we all do in different ways.
It really is.
It's busy.
Yeah.
And do you have any specific moment on stage or in life that has really transformed you as a person? That you really feel like has just shaped you or just really influenced you?
There's a few. I think making Noble was a huge experience. I can't underestimate what it was, and to spend as much time researching and becoming Christina. She's somebody I always admired. She's one of those extraordinary human beings, and I think to get to spend time with somebody like that is quite the privilege. So when Steve and I wanted to make a film about her life, it was an almost impossible task. I have a great knack of picking really difficult projects that will cost a lot of money, and people will look at you like, are you out of your mind? That's not going to happen. But anyway, look, sometimes ignorance is bliss, and you can become quite dogged for the wrong reasons, but you
just get on.
You plow ahead, and we got that film made, and I'm awful proud of it, and I'm awful proud that we got her story out there. It lives on Amazon and does particularly well in the States. My small heartache about it is that it's not on Netflix, because I think everybody in the country would have watched it during COVID.
Netflix, are you listening?
I was going to say,
but we don't watch Amazon the way that we watch Netflix. So that's where it lives. If anybody's listening and thinking, I'd like to see that.
See it. You have to see it. It's such a powerful performance. I was on a flight, I watched it, and I was bawling my eyes out. Richard was like, you okay? I was like, oh, Deirdre, it's just the performance. And because you do, and you have to bring it, and as I said, it's a space where you grow as an actor is of course on a film set. And I mean, there's so much emotion you have to tie in over the few weeks that you're shooting. My question to that is, do you like that process, that cumulative process of molding a character over weeks and weeks and bringing that sense of emotion?
I do like it. I mean, I loved it on that because it was a lead, so I had a lot to do. Yes. So I don't like being a bit part actor. Because honestly, filming is very boring. There's, as they say about that industry, hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Hurry up, get your makeup and hair done, and then wait. And I'm not great at the waiting. I realized, God, I need to be either directing this or absolutely being one of the main characters, because I'm not good at rocking up to do something small. So
lead
maybe
roles only.
Hence,
yeah, why not?
Well,
ready for my close-up.
Becoming a stand-up, but it doesn't get more intense than that. Yeah. So
amazing. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up because we're coming towards the end, but we have, if you don't mind, we have a bit of a quick fire entertainment round. Okay, so these are one-word answers, just a bit.
I should be amazing at this, but I rarely am. I can go blank and everything.
No,
so the best of luck, Natasha.
You're on stage. So what's the one lesson you wish you'd learned earlier on in your career?
Expect less. Just do the job.
Very good. I like that. That's very good. Okay, what's your travel space that you'd love the most?
Don't think I have one particular travel space. Do you mean as a place to go to, like a home away from home?
You
or?
could go like, off the island.
A week away. You could go.
Yeah, we've been to Mallorca a lot, to a place called Deja, which is gorgeous. It's very quiet. I like quiet. So that's one place I've always loved. Okay. Yeah.
And what's one thing that people wouldn't know about you that you could share with us? Like a really interesting fact or something unique?
What do they not know? I was a world champion Irish dancer.
Oh, wow. See? That's amazing. Wow.
Very,
Get you.
I'll tell you what else I thought people don't know about me is I'm quite quiet. I like quiet. I like my own space. I like quiet. I'm not a big goer outer anymore. I can go for a big blowout. But see, the winter months, wild horses wouldn't drag me out of my house.
God, that's surprising.
But it's probably because I'm out. In fairness, I'm out maybe 3 nights a week working.
Gigging,
so after that, Nah, you're grand. I love telly.
Love telly.
Love.
Right, we're going to talk a little bit about space. So what is the most challenging space you've been in?
No pressure.
I think all family spaces are
They're
challenging.
triggering, I think.
You know,
great
you've got
answer,
all those different personalities.
I'm one of 5 as well, so I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, the fighting
Yeah,
for
I
the
mean, the
food, everything. You're
dynamics.
like, yeah, and it's you go back into your role. You know, do you notice that you kind of,
Of
no matter
course.
how successful you are or whatever you do in your personal life or work life, when you go into the dynamics, everyone fits back into that little role. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's why weddings are very challenging.
Yeah,
You've
people
got these
find-
two families, all these
Oh,
people
yeah.
coming together that shouldn't really be together.
yeah, I think that's a comedy in
Very
itself.
challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, I agree, definitely. And what's a bad habit that you'd like to break? No pressure. I feel like these are
I've
tricky.
millions of them. So
Probably procrastinating. I put things off till the 11th hour. I seem to need the
pressure.
lastminute.com pressure, and I really want to prepare ahead of time, but I seem to need that. Nah, I'm just gonna wait till the 11th hour. I know, even when I stayed at home, I chose to be take a year off from work and be a stay-at-home mom, and I got very bored very quickly. I wasn't great at it, but I tell you, I would leave it to the last second to drive to the school to collect them. I'd be like driving like Lewis Hamilton.
So
I'd
you're always
leave it.
Are you
I'd
late
leave
then?
it till it was 2 minutes to 2 o'clock.
So you're always late.
And
you weren't late today.
But therefore always having to get through the traffic and find a little shortcut
But you
route.
like maybe the
This
excitement
is what
of
I
it.
did to
This
get a bit of adrenaline
maybe,
in my life.
yeah.
I remember thinking, this is sad, love. You're
I think
looking
that's a
for
creative thing, though. I think it's a creative thing. I think creative people procrastinate. I think
I'm-
that's part of our DNA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm easily bored. I'm very easily bored. So.
Well, this is an easy question. Who was your favorite actor or comedian growing up? Who was your go-to?
Growing up, I wasn't that young when I watched Will and Grace.
Will and
But
Grace, so funny.
I remember thinking, you've got my job. I was looking at not Deborah Messing, but who's the name of the actress who plays? Is it Karen?
I don't know.
It's such a comedy.
loved her.
It's such a brilliant creation
such
of
a
a
brilliant-
comic character, and also I get very jealous when I see 4 comic actors together. Is like watching a brilliant game of tennis. They're fast, and they're feeding each other all the time. And we used to watch that show with envy. Going, that's what I actually wanted to do.
I wanted to live in the flat with Jack. Like, they were so fun.
It's
like,
an
I wanted
extraordinary
to be one of their
series.
friends.
You should watch it if you haven't
I
watched it.
will. I'm gonna. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah,
reruns
I
of
actually one of my
everything.
Go
favorite
from the
shows.
start.
I prefer
I
it to
mean,
Friends.
the
actually.
season with Woody Harrelson, like just off the charts.
You're belly laughing. Like it's
belly laughing.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Belly
I love the fact that these are one-word answers, and of course we end up chatting about Will and Grace.
Yeah, she's
So-
not great at the one. Not great at the one word.
So if you were in your current profession, like which covers a lot of ground,
Yeah.
and Irish dancing, which we know now, and what would you think you'd like to be doing? Like what other kind of, if you had to just randomly, if you
I'd
could be
like to
someone else
be
for a day.
filling bigger venues more of the time.
Same profession then, basically.
Yeah, I'm
It's your thing.
really stepping into the stand-up. I feel like I've arrived.
So it's only
I
the
feel like I've
beginning.
I like
arrived
that. I
as,
like
as a
arrived.
comic. It takes a long time, doesn't it?
Well, then my question might already be answered. It is, what is a future space you'd like to live in or be in?
I want sun for my old age. I don't want to be in Ireland for 12 months of the year. I think it's very harsh as
Yeah.
people get older. So if I could manage to pull together some class of a nest egg, just a little apartment somewhere that was warm to get out of here
Mallorca?
for, Mallorca is utterly unaffordable. The parts of it that I would like to live in.
You just want to
But
get off the
that's-
island.
I
Get off
just
the
do,
island.
yeah.
Yeah, a
Heat.
bit of sun, yeah,
heat.
definitely. And what's one trend in comedy or in life that you think that doesn't go out of style? Like
One trend that doesn't go out of style.
Yeah,
Well,
for you.
I think style doesn't go out of style. I
That's
mean,
really-
I don't in fashion. I have never followed trends.
You're always so
I know what I
stylish,
like, and it doesn't seem to go out of. I do like classic things though, the old black and white,
I'm a black girl. I love all the
yeah.
jet black.
I mean, I am the chief mourner. There's no question. I mean, it's lucky I had the bit of white. If I could do all black a lot of the time, I would.
Well, it suits you. Look great.
I don't really know if I answered that
No,
question. very
I
well.
think that was a good one. We're on our final question of the day. We're going to wrap it up. And this one is, what is your biggest accomplishment, Deirdre?
I think I've reared 2 well-adjusted children.
No.
I hope I have. That's hard work. Yeah, hopefully. Now, if one of them fucks up.
No pressure.
See how well I didn't swear till now. I did so well.
Yeah.
You did 45 minutes and not one F. I love it. Deirdre, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. What
so
a
much
delight.
for sharing all your stories and your tips and advice, and we will get all the Interiors brands onto you.
Yeah.
And obviously your show
Amazing.
is out, so we can check it. Anyone who wants to see it on your website. They can-
Yes, DeirdreO'Kane.net.
Yeah,
.net. We
.net
have it all
is, yeah.
covered.
Might become.
Deirdre, thank you so much for your
Thank
time and all
you.
your endeavours. You're an absolute hoot to boot. And
Thank you
I
both.
wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Total pleasure.
For more on Deirdre and her upcoming shows, check out DeirdreO'Kane.net.
This episode was sponsored by Ireland's leading bathroom brand, Sunnis. It's time to reimagine bathrooms. Be inspired at sunnisbathrooms.com.
And if you want to keep up with the latest from Space to Grow, make sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And if you can, leave us a rating or review.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Space to Grow.